It happened on March 24, 1989. Who could ever forget? The Exxon Valdez ran aground on Bly Reef, spilling 11 million gallons of North Slope crude into the magnificent wilderness of Prince William Sound.
All of a sudden, it was just like I was going through a real quiet. I couldn't even hear my waves splash because the oil was so thick. And there was no animals, no birds.
At first it didn't set in. I just didn't understand how bad it was. It was like losing many members of your family at one time. It was really unexplainable, and I cried, as did my whole family.
Now, with the passing years, the oil spill and the highly publicized cleanup are receding into memory. But is it really over? Can it ever be?
Basically what we learned in 1989 is that when oil gets loose on the water in that magnitude, it can't be contained and it can't be retrieved. And when it gets on the beach, it can't be cleaned up.
Most visible signs of the spill are gone now. Tankers continue to carry oil from the Alyeska Pipeline Service Company terminal in Valdez through the Sound to the Gulf of Alaska. But shortly after the spill, the people who depend on the sea for their livelihood and sustenance got together and demanded change. Coastal citizens from Cordova to Kodiak insisted on a voice, on the power to monitor oil industry practices. In 1990, Congress passed the Oil Pollution Act and gave the new Prince William Sound Regional Citizens Advisory Council the protection of federal law.
The walls of Alyeska came down. We had access to Alyeska in a way we never did before. We had access to information like we never had before. And there was a true desire from Alyeska to receive that input.
If we had had RCAC prior to 1989, the Valdez could not have happened.
The council would advise on critical matters of prevention and response. It would work to minimize environmental harm from oil industry practices. It would try to make sure that the complacency blamed for the Exxon Valdez spill never set in again.
Topics such as the effectiveness of dispersants.
When we get complacent, we start seeing the oil industry and the shippers, Alyeska, they start slacking off. And it's small and it's subtle and it's a little bit at a time, but I think unless there's people watching, that happens.
The first goal is prevention, making sure the oil never gets out of the tanker. The council participated with the oil industry and government regulators in a program of risk assessment. How can we reduce the possibility of another spill?
I think what the risk assessment did was bring all the parties together, all at the table, to where they talked and understood each other, listened to each other, and came and made some decisions.
Powerful new tractor tugs have been added to the fleet. These tugs have advanced propulsion systems that can power the vessel not just forward and reverse, but to either side as well.
And what this means is that the tug is much more capable to exert forces on a tanker. And we actually use those tugs tethered to a tanker when a tanker is leaving the terminal. And in the event that the tanker was to have a steering failure or a loss of propulsion, these tugs are in good position to be able to respond and then exert the necessary forces to keep the tanker from standing into danger.
The risk assessment program confirmed the need for double-hull tankers in a fleet still made up mostly of single-hull ships. The council now is watching to make sure these are replaced with double-hull vessels on the schedule mandated by federal law.
Well, the council feels it's very important to have double-hull tankers because it is one of the best ways to keep oil from getting in the water. The Coast Guard, after the oil spill in 1989, did a study, and in that study it showed that had the Exxon Valdez been a double-hull, that potentially up to 60 to 80% of the oil that was lost would have been kept in the tanker.
The risk assessment also recommended finding ways to reduce the danger posed by icebergs in Prince William Sound, which was a factor in the Exxon Valdez spill. The council has participated in several research projects on how to predict, detect, and avoid icebergs in the tanker lanes out of Valdez. Another of the Council's primary responsibilities is to review the industry's contingency plans for preventing and cleaning up oil spills.
The requirement now is that they have to be able to contain and control and clean up 300,000 barrels in 72 hours. We hold them to being able to get all of their equipment to the scene of an incident and to have it operational in an average of 6 hours.
With its team of consultants, staff, and volunteers, the Council constantly monitors these plans and the oil industry's ability to carry them out. Because of equipment failure or human error, what happened at Bly Reef could happen again at any time.
In 1989, when the Exxon Valdez went aground, it took days before they actually had the equipment available and ready to respond to the spill. We went all over the world looking for booming material that wasn't even available. Today, the contingency plans will guarantee that the booming material is there. We have depositories of equipment and materials situated around Prince William Sound and even in the downstream communities, the communities that are likely to be affected by a spill.
The Council's emergency response team observes and reports on all oil spill response drills conducted by shippers and terminal personnel. These drills include simulated cleanup in open water.
It's very important that we provide eyes for our communities to let them know what's going on, to provide an avenue for their concerns to be put into the response command, and to then give them feedback as to what is actually taking place. And we've seen a lot of improvements in that over the years, both being able to get citizen concerns into the command decision-making process and in the value that is placed on the citizen concerns by the responders.
Once spilled oil escapes containment in the immediate vicinity of the tanker, the battle shifts to protecting vulnerable resources like beaches, salmon streams, and hatcheries. It's a different kind of response, called nearshore response.
There's an old adage that says that when the tide is out, the table is set. And in the case of an oil spill, the only thing that protects that habitat is going to be the nearshore response. The nearshore response will protect those sensitive areas that provide us with herring roe on kelp, shellfish, and our salmon spawning areas, just to name a few.
The nearshore response plan requires Alyeska to provide each hatchery with trailers equipped with booms, pumps, and all the equipment necessary to prevent oil from entering a bay.
The hatcheries are essential. In Prince William Sound, they're absolutely essential to the health of the fishery.
Although oil spill prevention and response is a major focus for the Council, the advocates are deeply concerned with other issues too. They investigate and monitor a wide range of potential problems related to the loading and shipping of oil, not just in the Sound, but in a region stretching all the way to Kodiak in the Gulf of Alaska. One of the Council's major studies focused on non-indigenous species brought to the Sound in the ballast water of tankers.
I got some hydranths, harpacticoid copepods.
Such aquatic invaders have caused serious problems in other places, such as the Great Lakes and San Francisco Bay.
Many of those species are having enormously disruptive influences on the ecology and have changed the whole ecosystem in important ways.
The concern was that some of these species could cause trouble in Alaska too.
And now what we're doing here is going around to different ports in different parts of Prince William Sound to actually see if we can find evidence that the Sound is being invaded by some of those species.
Another concern for the Council was the problem of air quality in Valdez.
The vapors that are in the cargo tanks when the tanker is filling are released into the atmosphere, and they contain some pretty hazardous components, the kinds of things that cause cancer like benzene.
The Citizens Council campaigned for years to end the venting of these poisonous vapors into the air. In 1995, the government acted, requiring Alyeska to install vapor control systems at the terminal.
This whole process is probably one of the best examples of how RCAC has worked using outside expertise, working with the industry and the agencies to improve environmental conditions at the terminal. It oftentimes takes a long time, and we have to try many avenues before we can really change policy.
The Exxon Valdez oil spill harmed more than the environment. Lives were disrupted, jobs were lost, villages were torn by issues they had never faced before. The Council created a program to help communities deal with the social and economic damage from the oil spill. Several outreach tools were compiled into a guidebook called Coping with Technological Disasters.
Some of the impacts that our volunteers reported and also the researchers documented were increased domestic violence in the communities, increased depression, problems with child care because parents were off working on the oil spill, increased anxiety amongst children, things like that. Researchers have demonstrated that in a technological disaster, you have what's called a corrosive community, you have long-term effects, you definitely have some mental health issues that you might not be dealing with in a natural disaster.
The guidebook was central to a program of community healing. Along with the guidebook, a newspaper education program and training of school teachers, clergy, and mental health counselors are helping people come to terms with the disaster they have experienced. More than a decade has passed since the Exxon Valdez went aground on Bly Reef. They have been years of commitment and action. Much has been done to avoid another environmental disaster, but much remains to be done.
We can't allow complacency to set in again. The Regional Citizens Advisory Council is still very much needed, and will be needed as long as oil flows through that pipeline.
Now we've discovered through RCAC that we have a lot of friends that have a lot of energy and a lot of interest, and we can work together.
Some of the most important things since the Exxon Valdez spill has just been the assurance that somebody's watching.
We're just never satisfied that it is absolutely as best as it can be.
Fortunately, the RCAC is concentrating efforts to get more equipment into the downstream communities such as Seward, Seldovia, Homer, and Kodiak.
Kodiak relies on the ability to be able to address their concerns directly to the oil industry, and through the council, through the RCAC, they can do that.
We have so many people that are so intelligent and so passionate about how they feel about keeping Prince William Sound safe that it really makes this organization work.
And I'm very proud of the accomplishments of RCAC. In many ways, it's the most noble experiment that any of us have ever been associated with.